We've got 6 ANZACs competing on road to UFC in China. Here's why you should care.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your main event.
Live from HBF Stadium Festival Hall. Melbourne Pavilion.
Not even backstage, we're literally outside. Was that the best fight card in Australian MMA history?
Call me crazy, but make sure you call me when I'm right.
Be good if the Aussie MMA Instagram page would give us a bit of glow up because...
Welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. My name is Mitch Tinley, and today's show, look, we've got some huge opportunities for half a dozen of our beloved ANZACs. They have an opportunity to compete and put on a show and hopefully realise their dreams, pick up a UFC contract. Some are trying to earn it back, with a second opportunity, some with some surprise opportunities, and some that are just, publicly well-deserved and, if anything, a little bit late at getting their chance at reaching their dream. Now, road to UFC, if you don't know, I'm going to horrendously explain it to you. It's imagine it like a Timu Dana White Contender Series. Everyone knows Dana White Contender Series as the world's hardest job interview. Dana White sits cage side and he goes like, yay! And then whether they win or lose, or sometimes when they win, but it's not impressive enough, they still don't get a contract. But if he deems you worthy at the end of the show, it's like 8 weeks or something with multiple fighters from all around the world. If he deems you worthy, get a UFC contract. You get to reach your dreams. Now, we've had the likes of Jack Jenkins, Jimmy Crute, Cullen Saukild, Carlos Ulberg, even Jack Della, who recently just picked up the UFC Welterweight Championship. Even he came through the Dana White Contender Series. Most people do. It's almost like a launching pad these days. It's almost better than being straight out signed because you get kind of like the UFC hype machine. Well, they're putting a little bit more love into Road to UFC. It was basically just this little tournament over in Southeast Asia to kind of, what was it, 8-man tournament, kind of win a fight, then I think another one in June, and then maybe another one in July. Could be wrong here. And then you have the sort of grand final. The winner of that weight class picks up a UFC contract, and this time it's sort of extended to the old Oceania, the old Australia and New Zealand, and it's split up into 4 episodes. We've got some weight class tournaments and some feature bouts where our ANZACs are going to get an opportunity to compete. But yeah, first time ever that the Australian and New Zealanders get to partake in the tournament. We're taking on guys from like Indonesia and China and other places. Look, it's gonna be interesting. No one talk about the fights too much, but I just think the storylines going in are gonna be very interesting. Now, we got 6 guys with this opportunity. One of them with a bit of a showcase feature bout. That one is none other than Kitt Campbell, the former two-time, well, still currently, two-time Hex welterweight champion. Kitt Campbell has been a stud ever since he was 18. He's been sort of on the UFC radar, and yeah, it's pretty cool to see Kitt get his opportunity because he's seen many people sort of pass him by, and he wins one, loses one, or gets really close and loses the big one. And we've had him on the show before, and he's talked multiple times about it, and it really has felt at times. He even said in our interview that if it wasn't this year, like if he didn't get his opportunity this year, he was probably going to call it a day, which you can fully understand as to why he would do that. Now, he is taking on a man by the name of Shogo Sapto, May 23rd in Shanghai, China. Like I said, showcase bout, so win, lose, draw, spinning wheel kick 5 seconds into the fight. Even if he pulls off the victory, he's not guaranteed anything. He might even just earn an opportunity, which is my opinion. I think a win here, even if it's violent, I think he will earn an opportunity to Dana White Contender Series. So I think they'll kind of put him through the ringer twice. But it's a huge opportunity for Kitt Campbell. I've been a big fan of him ever since I started watching the sport on the regional scene. He really has been like a Hex guy through and through. He's, Melbourne. He's sort of Melbourne's favourite son type thing. Training out of Australian elite team with Jake Matthews and Jimmy Crute and mixing up with Johnny McAuliffe and all of those boys. So he is more than capable of being in the UFC, I believe. And he's had questions in the past of like, you know, can he go the distance and can he outlast type thing. But he just seems to be like what he did to Matt Vale in the rematch, what he did to Caleb Rideout. He's a very, very scary man. And I think his battle against Kevin Doucet, where he ultimately fell short. Of course, Kevin Doucet ended up getting signed by the UFC and then ultimately released not too long ago. But I think it aged well, and that shows that Kitt Campbell is definitely one to watch. So that's the showcase one. Now, the next opportunity, basically May 22nd and 23rd, these events will be on. These tournament bouts as well, and there'll be sort of one episode play. Now to say it's 90 minutes, whatever it is, and then there's like a little break, and then like a second episode plays in the same night. So if you're on the west coast of Australia, it's like 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Thursday, and then the next day it's 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. We don't exactly know where all our fighters are going to be, but we do know kind of what days they're going to be. And May 22nd, the Thursday, we will see Seb Sallay and Aaron Toe competing in the first rounds of their tournament. Seb Sallay, start with him. Now, he's going to be the featherweight tournament. He is the current Eternal MMA featherweight champion. Just had a really nice display against Taser Malone, and he's really started to put it together. Trains out of freestyle MMA, and of course with the great and legendary Alexander the Great Volkanovski, who, side note, will be getting the keys to Illawarra or Wollongong. I don't know. No one knows. But he's getting the keys to the city. It's pretty cool. Someone from the ABC Illawarra, the breakfast show, they called me today. And they were like, hey, why is he so good? And I was like, well, he's just not only the best athlete and the best fighter, he's just like the best guy. But yeah, so anyway, great for him. Seb Sallay, by the way, doing well. He just sort of has just slowly chipped away. I mean, I remember calling his fight when he lost to Abella Biata. I think it was back in 2021, might have even been further back than that, maybe even 2019. He's sort of bounced around a little bit, but he's done all the necessary things he's needed to do to sort of break through to the next level. Seb Sallay started training out of Spud Shed, Tony Galatti's Spud Shed out the back. If anyone knows anything about Tony Galatti, it's like a real pop culture man. He's the potato man. A really well-known personality, as we like to call them. And then he eventually ended up training with Soa the Hulk Palele from the UFC, former UFC heavyweight, then moved on to like Woolsden and Hun Martial Arts with Danny Botanovic and all those boys, and then made the leap over to freestyle MMA to train with Justin Van Heerden, Colby Thictus, Alex Volkanovski, all those boys. And he's just slowly become sort of a guy that was just sort of participating to probably one of the go-to training partners, one of the go-to prospects that's come out of there. And he's amassed, I think it's a 8-1 record now, might have been 9-1. He's absolute like stud, little karate man, so light on his feet, so fun to watch, but can also wrestle and grapple and shut anyone out. It's a good opportunity for him. He's had some health problems recently. A couple of years ago, tried to drop to bantam. He spoke to us all about that if you want to go watch that interview. But it's a good opportunity for Seb. He's getting up there with age. I think he's 31. And in the UFC, that kind of feels so old, which is ridiculous. So I think it's a great opportunity for Seb. He really is sort of, I feel like, one of the better performers coming out of Eternal MMA and really flying the flag. So it's going to be very nice. Fun fact, I believe he still gets to hang on to the title, and if Eternal do anything with the belts until, say, Seb gets signed, they will just crown an interim champion. But I believe Seb Sallay will remain the Eternal champion, which I think is pretty cool for the promotion. Now, he is taking on... I got his name. Seb Sallay is taking on Bayagrang Giale. Fuck, I'm not even going to try. Seb Sallay is competing May 22nd. I think it's going to be episode 1, so around about 7 o'clock Western Standard Time. That would be 9 p.m. In Melbourne, and I think 11 p.m. in New Zealand, if you're keeping an eye on that. The guy that he's fighting, he recently actually fought in the UFC. So he's kind of come back. I think he took like a late notice step up on a UFC fight. No, but yeah, he's coming back. So he's in the tournament, trying to earn his UFC contract, which I think is pretty cool. Now, up next is the most polarizing man in Oceania MMA. Out of all of ANZAC's, Aaron Toe is so polarizing. Go check out some of the interviews. In fact, both the interviews that we did, the comments are ruthless. They either love him or they hate him. He's got the antics leading up to the fight. He's got the antics in the fight. He talks a gang of shit. He's got a fun fight style. I really like him. I think he's got an opportunity to put on some entertaining fights. Can he win the tournament? I don't know. But he's dropped down to flyweight, of course, training out of the great City Kickboxing. He's been to flyweight before, but he sort of made a bit of his name at Bantam. But yeah, he's a long-time training partner of the legendary Dan Hooker, and like I said, all the boys at City Kickboxing. But look, he lost to Elijah Smith, Dana White Contender Series last year, and you can't say it wasn't exciting. I mean, you can dislike the man if you want, but you can't tell me he's not exciting. So I think that will be violent, and he's the perfect sort of guy to sort of shine in those opportunities. He's got the Maori tat. I don't know what it's called. You guys will probably fight me for it, but he's got the look of it all. Not the most technically sound guy, but he's just, like I said, super violent, and he can catch anyone. So I've hearing on good word, don't know is about May 22nd, but I think Aaron Toe will end up being episode 2. So that's around about 1 a.m. New Zealand time, and Seb Sallay in episode 1 of May 22nd. Once again, you see all of these on UFC Fight Pass. Now, we move over to the 23rd of May, so that's Friday, if you're in Australia, on UFC Fight Pass. Once again, episode 1, 7 p.m, episode 2, 9 p.m. on the West, or 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. if you're over Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales, or 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. if you're in New Zealand. Now, that's what we got here. Okay, so we got Jack Becker taking on Park Jae-hun, a lightweight in the lightweight tournament. We've got Kitt Campbell we've already gone through. Kitt Campbell taking on Shogo Sapto. That's the feature sort of showcase bout, if you will. We've got Don Marfan taking on Yuji Yannick Epehawea. Man, I am getting 50-45 on these names, but that's not why you come here. And then we've got Lawrence Liu taking on Zhang King Qingwei. Fucking hell. All right, so reason what I like about these ones: Jack Becker 13-5 taking on Jae-hun Park 7-3. Now, connection to Australia, Park Jae. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. How I'm supposed to say it. I was just the worst journalist. He lost to Abdallah Biada a little while ago. I think it was 2023. So that's his connection to Australia, and that was at lightweight. But Jack Becker. When we talk about Jack Becker, he started his career, I think he was 6-0 at 25 when his loss came against Callum Potter, who eventually ended up in the UFC. But Jack Becker was you hear all these guys who's they're the next big thing, like your Harry Webbs, George Mangosses, all that sort of stuff. But Jack Becker was the guy. He was the up and comer. And then he's had a few speed bumps along the way. Of course, he broke his leg in 2021 in that infamous bout against Aiden Aguilera, where he lost the Eternal MMA Lightweight Championship, and then he had to really battle back. Went on a bit of a skid against Martinez. I think it was Joblin. You then had Togo. He had some he's fought nothing but absolute stud guys after that. But I like what he's done. He's taken a step back at times and also enjoyed life while still sort of training hard to reach his UFC dream. No one deserves it more. Let me tell you that. Like, I just think, like, everything that Jack Becker has gone through, and like I said, I'm very biased as I'm over in the West, but he's worked so hard, and he's had, like, so many speed bumps, and most people don't even walk straight after that leg break, let alone return to mixed martial arts, let alone return to where he left off. If he would have beaten Aiden Aguilera back then, he would have been into the UFC. I'm almost certain. It's then, 4 years later, and he's kind of right back where he was in that opportunity. And an interesting thing as well is if Jack Becker takes this out, his next matchup, and Don Marfan, if he wins his, we could see Don Marfan versus Jack Becker, which is very well we could have seen at Eternal MMA in the lightweight scene, which I think is very, very interesting. But yeah, Jack Becker, stud grappler, can strike. He's got that like more skilled Clay Guida style sometimes. And I think he even won like an ADCC trials in Oceania or something at some stage. So he's a hell of a grappler, been around for a long time. He was part of that Mac 1 crew with Javi Heskey with like Rod Costa and Holden Bates, and that was a stud of a team a couple of years ago. But yeah, now training out of Scrappy MMA, obviously helping the man, Jack Della, reach the UFC welterweight crown. So look, Jack Becker, opportunity. I think it's definitely a winnable fight for him. I'm not really going to give predictions on fights or sort of analyse it too much. I just want to talk about storylines. But yeah, I think Jack Becker gets sort of a nice first round finish and goes on to hopefully take on Don Marfan. And speaking of Don Marfan, Street Buddha, he is a violent grappler, to say the least. He likes drawing blood out of his opponent. This one was interesting. Don Marfan 6-2 taking on Eugenic Ifopatviga. I will wait for them to call me to do commentary. Yeah, lightweight, Don Marfan, his only two losses have come to none other than Quillan Saukield, who is going to be an absolute superstar, and I think he's going to be a ranked UFC fighter very soon. And in my very, very, very out there hot take, I think Quillan Saukield is going to compete for a UFC championship one day. Only two losses, Don Marfan, is to Quillan Saukield, so I think that is interesting in itself. He has very underrated striking training out of the just sniper academy that is Team Compton, with Elliot Compton and Blair Bratag, who is getting his shot at the Eternal Middleweight Championship, which is pretty cool. Tom Nolan, who's already in the UFC, Stewie Nickel, who's already in the UFC, John Martin Fraser, who bloody should be in the UFC, under the tutelage of the ever so politely scary Steve Compton. He seems like a real vicious, like he's going to punch you in the head, but he's actually like the really, really nice guy. And the way he trains them, you think that he just hammers them into the ground. He doesn't. I had the privilege of seeing one of their training sessions, and yeah, it's really methodical. Yeah, I really like it. Anyway, Don Marfan, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. Yeah, he didn't surprise me getting this opportunity. I thought it was maybe like one or two fights too soon, because I thought like, oh, we might, when this Road to UFC happened, I didn't think this was going to happen. So we only had Dana White Contender Series, and normally you have to be like the champion and dominating everyone. And I thought we're probably maybe like a year away from that. But I said years ago, probably a year and a half ago, that I thought Don Marfan would be an Australian champion for sure. So I'm a big fan of his, and he's not as dumb as his team makes him out to seem. He's actually very smart. He's very intelligent. Go check out that interview, Don Marfan. He very analytical with how he breaks down his entire career and sports psychology. But yeah, I think Don Marfan is going to take it out as well. Once again, do I know much about their opponents? I don't, but I can just feel it, and I feel like it's going to be good for Australia to get Don Marfan and Jack Becker in the second round. I think that's going to be almost like when the Joker in the Batman breaks the pool cue. He throws it down. Like, one of them has to die. You don't want any of them to, but one of them will move on. That's what that's going to feel like. Anyway, rounding it out too as well is sort of the real dark horse, especially for me and all the hype. I reckon I've mentioned Lawrence Liu's name once in this entire time, and that just goes to show how shit I am. He's training out of City Kickboxing. He's only lost a split decision to Anthony Drillich, who is the uncrowned king of the ANZACMMA Flyweight division, and unfortunately fell short of his Dana White Contender Series bout. But yeah, Lawrence Liu, a lot of guys are really high on him. I was talking to Aaron Toe in our interview, and I was like, oh, Lawrence Liu, like, that was a surprise sort of opportunity. And Aaron Toe was like, nah, dude's legit. Dude's a killer. I do think he did an interview with Joel with Other Cross Combat, so go check that out if you want to find out a little bit more about Lawrence. But I'll be very interested to see how Lawrence goes. Lawrence Liu, he's taking on Zhang Qinghe at Bantamweight. Yeah, like I said, his victory against Drillich too came at Bantamweight, so he can definitely hang with everyone. Now, hopefully, guys, look, that's everyone that is competing. May 22nd, May 23rd, road to UFC 4 on UFC Fight Pass. Intriguing matchups, you know. You got some guys finally getting their opportunities, some sort of surprise opportunities that guys I think are really going to seize it with both hands. And then just some guys that we expect to be there, like a Seb Sallay. If I had to pick the guy that I'm get behind the most, I mean, I really wanted to work out for Jack Becker. I really do. Like I said, love Dolmar fan, but I think he's going to have plenty of other opportunities in tournaments and what. Oh, I can't even say that. I love him. I think Jack Becker, this is his moment. When you break your leg and you're staring up at the lights and you might not ever walk again, and you've got an opportunity to forcibly achieve your dreams, because he could just lay and pray on all of them up until the end of the tournament and pick up a UFC contract. Not that he would do that, but I think that's kind of cool that Jack Becker is kind of soon, what do they say? Undesirable when he broke his leg to undeniable if he wins the tournament. So I'm really pulling for Jack and Kitt Campbell. I'm a big fan of guys that not only have been around for a long time, but were like these up and coming, like almost like hype trains, and then they've just been sort of derailed, got back on the tracks, derailed, got back on the tracks, derailed, got back on the tracks, and now they have an opportunity to sort of really show out. And I feel like this is a very Kitt Campbell way to just sort of grab this weak olive branch where it's just like, hey, even if you win, even if it's amazing, we still might not even sign you. But just go out there and give it a shot. I think that's really, really cool. Yeah, guys, so let me know who you're looking forward to seeing the most. Storylines, how do you rank my pronouncing of their opponents' names out of 10? Let me know. Other than that, like, subscribe. Like I said, chat to me during the fights. May 22nd, May 23rd, 7 p.m. Western Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 11 p.m. New Zealand time. UFC Fight Pass. Let's get 6 ANZACs onto the world stage.